P. I will get off lah. Off lah. Bapak lagunya.
Hello and good morning, everyone. Welcome to our National Training Week session. I am Husina and I am delighted to be your host for today's session. Today we are honored to have our expert trainer, Ms. Adila, who will be sharing valuable insights on Microsoft Excel, creating pivot tables and interactive dashboards. So during the session, please feel free to ask questions in the chat box below, as Ms. Adila will address all the questions at the end of the session. As a reminder, please keep your microphones muted throughout the session to avoid any disruptions. So without further ado, I hand over the floor to Ms. Adila.
All right, thank you, Nina. So, Assalamualaikum and good morning, everyone. So, I hope everyone is doing good. Okay. And I would like to welcome everybody to the session. Okay. So, today's title is about creating pivot table and also interactive dashboard. So, we will start understanding and creating the pivot table. And along the way, we will build up the pivot table into a full scale dashboard, right? So, before I start, what I'll do is I'm going to share a file with all of you. Okay, so for those who would like to try it together with me, you can do so. So let me grab that file and put it in the chat box for all of you. Right, so let me reshare it. All right, so I've sent the file to all of you. Okay, so before I start, I need to do an important housekeeping, right? So number one, we only have an hour session for today's session, right? So I won't be able to give you sort of a one-to-one attention, all right? I won't be able to actually stop every single time whenever you won't be able to find a certain button, a certain function. So what I would suggest over here is you can open the file, you can try and do it yourself, right? But whenever you face any difficulties, right, I would highly encourage you to rewatch the videos later because this video will be uploaded in YouTube, all right? Because to create a dashboard, we will start from, a pivot table up to the dashboard part. So usually it will take more than an hour, okay, without any further lengthy question and so on. So I would highly appreciate it if, let's say, you have any urgent question, you may ask in the chat box at the end of the session or during the session. That's fine with me. But if, let's say, anybody happen to, don't have that certain function and so on, I would highly encourage you to watch the video later. Okay, so I hope that helps because you need to understand Excel have different license. Some of you may have your 365, some of you may have your 2021, 2019. So every single license differs. Okay, for myself, I'm using 365, which is the latest one. All right, so that's why maybe when you open your Excel, the interface and how it looks like, it looks a little bit different okay, than how it looks like from my screen and also for your screen. Okay. So I'll start by sharing my screen over here. Okay. So what we'll cover for today is we are going to cover several items, right? So first, I'm going to share with you about pivot table basic, okay, whereby we are going to do 3 pivot table, which is we are going to utilize 2-quadrant, 3-quadrant, and also 4 quadrants pivot table. Later, I will show you what does quadrant means and how pivot table looks like, right? Number 2, I'm going to share with you how you can actually sort inside a pivot table, right? So pivot table, maybe you want to show from the highest to lowest number, or maybe from lowest to highest number. So we'll be covering this as well. Number 3, we are going to cover pivot table distinct count. All right, so this is an interesting feature. For those who have used pivot table before, this could be something new for you, right? And then we will also be covering pivot table calculated field. And subsequently, I'm going to share with you about pivot chart, slicer, timeline, and ultimately the last part, which is dashboard, right? So the essence of the dashboard is from pivot table itself. So if you have good understanding, deep understanding on pivot table, creating pivot table would be, creating dashboard would be something fairly easy for you to do. Okay, all right. So you may open the file if you want to. Okay. So what I'll do over here is I'm going to go to the last worksheet, which is cookie data, right? If you open the file that I've shared in the chat box earlier, you can go to the last worksheet cookie data. And here you can see I have data from column A up to column G, isn't it? So we have country, product, how many unit is sold, the revenue, cost, profit, and also date. So assuming this is a set of data that you may have seen from all of the companies, right? So every companies would have their product, let's say how many unit is sold or services offered by them, their revenue, cost, profit, and also the transaction date. Okay. Now, what I'll do first is I'm going to check my data is located in which cell. Okay. So if I look here, it started off from cell A1 until cell G701. So it's quite a lot here, right? Until row 701. So my data is in cell A1 until G701. So before we start a pivot table, let me explain to you what is pivot table. So for those who never see pivot table before, who never uses pivot table before, pivot table is like a summary table, right? Example, you have this 700 rows, okay? So let's say you want to know what is the profit by product, right? What is the profit for each of the country? You want a nice full summary, isn't it? So you don't need to do it manually to calculate it one by one, adding up all of those profit. You can just create a pivot table, okay? Right. So to create a pivot table, let me bring up my magnifier so I can zoom in a little bit for you. So pivot table is located over here. If you go up here into your insert tab, right, you have your file, home, insert. On the most left side, you can see pivot table. Okay, so this is where pivot table is located under your insert tab. Now, the first step in creating a pivot table is, remember your data is from cell A1 until G701, right? Okay, so what you can do is, firstly, just put your cursor, your mouse here, anywhere inside your data, in between cell A1 until G701, okay? Once you put in your data here, once you put in your cursor, you can go to your insert tab, press on the most left pivot table, and you see this box, right? They're asking you what is your table or range, okay? So now you see that the data that I've shared with you, it's in stripes, isn't it? So dia belang-belang, okay, ada stripes over there. So the stripes, because I have converted into a table. So your data could be in two forms, either in table. So when I converted into a table, meaning my cell A1 until G701, it's considered into a single table. And now the name of the table is table 3. Okay, all right. But let's say most of the data we don't convert into a table. It's in a normal range, right? So if you don't convert your data into a table, your data would be in range, isn't it? So please make sure over here it's written A1 G701. So that's why at the start, I check first. My data is from where to where? Why? Because if let's say for range, right, your data is from cell A1 until G701, but here it's only showing A1 until G100. So it means your range is already wrong, isn't it? So you need to make sure you highlighted A1 until G701 nicely, okay? So this one is good. It's table 3. That is exactly what we want. Now, number 2, you can choose either you want to put your pivot table in a new worksheet or in an existing worksheet. So this is basically your own preferences. But for me personally, I like to put my pivot table inside existing worksheet, meaning my raw data and my pivot table is inside the same worksheet. Number one is easy for me to see, right? Raw data and my pivot table is in the same worksheet. And second, I don't need to keep on changing, right? And revisiting different worksheets. So it's easier. Just one worksheet, everything is there. So that's why I like to do it, existing worksheet. So for this, for today's class, for today's session, we assume we want to put it in an existing worksheet. And now the last part is you need to choose the location. Okay, you need to let Excel know where you want to put your pivot table. So just choose any empty spaces. I'm going to choose cell I9, right? So I9 is here, just below slicer. Okay, I skip one row, so I'm clicking on cell I9. So you can see location, cookie data, I9, I9. Okay, so once all of this is correct, you can press on OK. So when you press on OK, you can see on your right side, pivot table fields. You have selection of title that you can choose from to create your pivot table. And of course, at the bottom here, you can see your quadrants, right? You can see 4 quadrants. Atas kiri, you have your filter. Top right, you have your column. Bottom left, rows. And also bottom right is values. Now, before I share with you how to create your pivot table per se, there are 3 rules that you need to remember, okay? So rule number 1, you must always use at least a minimum of 2 quadrants, okay, to create a pivot table. So you can use row and values, right? Or maybe you want to use 3 row, columns, and values. It does not matter as long as minimum 2, okay? Now, rule number 2, if you ask me, which one should I choose? Because there's 4, so many, which one should I prioritize? The answer is you should always prioritize the bottom 2, rows and also values. Okay, so that is rule number 2. So number 1, minimum 2 quadrant you must use. Number 2, prioritize rows and values quadrant, the 2 quadrant at the bottom. Now, for number 3, I need your help. Okay, I will click on country here, tick on country, and I will also tick on profit. Now, if you look here, country automatically Excel put it under the rows quadrant, profit automatically under the values quadrant. So how do Excel decide? Country dia letak bawah column ke, bawah row ke, bawah values ke? So the third rule says, if your data is in the form of text, example, country is in the text form, right? Alphabet. Therefore, it will be placed under rows quadrant. Okay. If your data is in the form of numbers like profit, right? It's going to put under your values quadrant. So that is the third rule for pivot table. Okay, so now nicely country under rows, profit under values. I will close my pivot table. And here, there you go. I have a summary that showcases my profit by country because I choose country and profit. So this is exactly the summary that I obtained. All right. Okay. Now, the numbers looks a little bit confusing because I cannot see clearly. Is it 2.7 million, right? Is it 27 billion? I need to count by myself. So what I'll do is I'm going to format this number. I'm going to highlight all of the numbers here. I'm going to go to my home tab. At the center, you can find your number ribbon. Okay. I'm going to click on comma. And here you can see 000 to the right, this symbol. This means decrease decimal places. And now if you can see over here, my numbers are nicely formatted. Okay, I apply comma and I reduce the decimal places because I don't want to see the cent. I just want to see the whole number over here, right? So this is my first pivot table, profit by country. And this is your 2-quadrant pivot table because you choose 2 title, you use 2-quadrant earlier. Okay, right. So this is the first one. Now for item number 2, we want to create 3-quadrant pivot table. We are going to use rows, values, and also columns. Okay. So the step by step is absolutely similar. Memang sama, right? You put your cursor anywhere inside your data in between A1 to G701. And then what should you do? Remember, go to your insert tab, press on pivot table. Just the same, exactly the same steps. All right. So double check. Your table orange is table 3. Choose existing worksheet. All right, very good. And of course, your location, let's choose another empty spaces. So here, I'm going to click on just one row, all right, below the grand total here. I selang satu, I skip one row. And here, I'm choosing the cell I17. I17, yeah, I17. So now once everything is good, let's press on OK. Sorry. So similarly, your pivot table fields comes on the right side. You have your selection of title here. And at the bottom, you have your 4-quadrant. So now we are going to use 3-quadrant, rows, values, and columns. So you will expect to click on 3 title, isn't it? Right? One for each of the quadrant. So for the second one here, we are going to choose country, product, and also profit. 3 title, country, product, and profit. Now, country and product, since both data is in text form, automatically it was placed under rows, all right? Nothing wrong with that. And of course, since profit is number, it's placed under values. Now, we need to move one of the title into column because we want to use 3-quadrant. So over here, I want you to click on product, click, you pull it up, and you release inside your columns quadrant. Just move your product from rows into columns quadrant. All right? Click, tarik, pull it over, and just release it under your columns quadrant. So now under columns, you have your product. Under values, you have your profit here. And under rows, you have your country. So you have 3 utilized quadrant. That is exactly what we want. Okay. So once everything is in place, okay, we can proceed to X here, close the pivot table fields. And now let's have a look at your pivot table, right? Sorry. Okay, so this is how your pivot table looks like. Let me format the number as usual, apply comma and decrease my decimal places. Right, so this is your 3-quadrant, 3-quadrant pivot table. Looks very nice. You have a summary not only by countries, but also, but also a summary by products as well. Okay, so from here, you can see your grand total is 2.76 million, your profit, and you have further breakdown by product as well. So we can have another insight, right? We can see the best selling product is actually chocolate chip, isn't it? Because the profit is more than 1 million. And of course, the second highest profit comes from the product white chocolate macadamia at about 528,000 roughly. Okay, so from here, you can see which countries are performing. You can even see which of your products are performing. Okay, and you also have the detail by country and by product as well. So simple pivot table, but in a business, it gives you a lot of insight, right? To actually create your next step, okay? To create your business plan and so on, right? So this is the 3rd-quadrant pivot table. Now for the last one, 4-quadrant, we are going to use all 4 quadrant. So all of it, filter, column, values, and also rows. So since you want to use all of it, right? Okay, I need to share a tips with you. If you see earlier, we only selang satu row, isn't it? Right? We only skip one row. But whenever you want to do all 4 quadrant, bila you nak guna ke semua 4-4, you need to skip minimum 3 quadrant. Sorry, 3 rows. You need to skip minimum 3 rows. Because when you want to use all 4, they require bigger space. So you cannot only skip 1 row, you need to skip a minimum of 3 rows. So later on, our location, we are going to choose cell I28. Can you? Okay. Now let's try again. So let's do the fourth one. Cursor anywhere inside your data here. All right, let's put it anywhere inside your data. And then repeat the same step. Insert tab, pivot table. Make sure table orange is table 3. Existing worksheet. And of course, for location, let's choose cell I28. You need to skip at least 3 rows. There you go. And here I'm choosing cell I28, right? Press OK. Right, so over here, you have your pivot table fields on the right side, similar. So we are going to utilize all 4. Therefore, we are going to click on 4 topics, okay? The first one is country. The second one is product. Number 3 is profit. So similar like the 3-quadrant pivot table. Now, the last title that I want you to choose is date, okay? Now, for the date part, I need all of you to pay attention, okay? If you are using a much newer version of Excel, 2021-365, okay? When you click on date, there will be 4 options that comes out, like what is shown in front of your screen right now. So when I click date, I have 4. I have date, months, quarters, yes. So if you are similar like me, I only want you to keep months. So meaning, untick on your date, okay, untick them, untick quarters, untick years. We only want to keep months, okay? All right, but if you are using 2016, 2013, most likely for 2016, you will only have 3. Date, quarters, years. So if you only have 3 options, please keep your date, remove your quarters, and yes, your date will represent as your month later on, okay? But if you are using license 2013, 2013, when you click on date, you only have 1, right? Months won't come out, quarters won't come out, years won't come out. Therefore, that's fine. Just click on your date. Your date will present as your months, okay? Even though the title is date, but it represents as your month later on, okay? All right. So now inside your rows, you have 3 topics, 3 title because everything is in text form. Sorry. And of course, your values, you have your profit. So what I want you to do is, firstly, please move your product into your column. Number 2, please move your date into your filter. Okay. So now you have 1 topic for each of the quadrant. Under filters, you have date. Under product, you have column. Under country, you have rows. And of course, under profit, you have values. So that is the whole idea. So 1 topic for each quadrant. So once we have all of this, we can close your pivot table fields. And now let's have a look at your pivot table. Right, so this is how it looks like. Let me format the number first so it looks clearer and nicer. Highlight all the numbers. Home tab, number ribbon, comma, decrease decimal places. Okay, all right. Now, it looks similar to your 3-quadrant pivot table, but with 1 exception. There is a filter area here, right? Your date. Now it's showing all. Okay. So if all, you can see your grand total is 2.76 million. Now, I would like to invite you all together. Please go to your filter area here, write your date. Now it's all right. So please choose only the month of January. Okay, so click on JAN, January, and then I want you to press OK. So when you click on the month of January, your pivot table will only show the data from January, and now your grand total is 171,380. 18, right? So just now it's showing 2.76 million, but now for the portion of only January, this is the number that you should have gotten. Okay, all right. Now, so what is the special thing about this particular filter, right? Let's say you want to have a summary table, a pivot table for whole 12 months, right? January until December. The benefit of you utilizing the filter quadrant is, you look over here, right? You only need one pivot table with filter, then you can filter to different months to see different months data, January, February, March, April, and so on. Instead of having 12 different pivot table, it requires you more time, isn't it? It requires you more space, and of course your file size will be very big. So this solves the problem, right? You don't need to waste a lot of time just to create 12 different pivot table. You don't need to have a lot of space to put in your pivot table. And of course, number 3, your file size will be smaller, right? So that is the benefit of using the filters quadrant here. One pivot table, you can access data for the whole 12 months, right? Just by filtering accordingly to which one you want to see, right? Okay. So what we've covered earlier, 2, 3, and 4 quadrant, this is what we call as pivot table basic, right? So usually for those who have used pivot table before, you would know how to create this sort of pivot table, okay? Right. So for pivot table basic, that is done, okay? We know how to utilize each of these particular pivot table. So the next item that I would like to cover is I want to share with you how you can sort your pivot table, okay? So I'm going to refer to the first pivot table here, starting from India to United States, grand total 2.76 million. The setting by default in Excel is they will put in alphabetical order. So that's why you can see India is first, United States is the last one because they follow A to Z alphabetical order. So let's say if you told me, Adila, is there a way for me to rearrange my pivot table, to sort my pivot table, so I can see which country has the highest profit until the lowest one? So you want to sort it from highest to lowest profit, okay? Right. You can do that, and I'm going to show you how, okay? So number 1, you go to your row labels here. There's an arrow. So you click on the drop-down arrow. And over here, you can see sort A to Z. That's fine. That is what currently it is, right? From India to United States. And you can also turn it around, right? From Z to A, meaning from United States to India. But these are all for alphabets. What if you want to sort for your numbers? If you want to sort numbers, go to more sort options, okay? Right. So when you click on more sort options, you have the options to choose ascending or descending. So remember, ascending is menaik ya, going up. So meaning lowest to highest. Descending is menurun lah, you descend. So that is highest to lowest. So if you want to do highest to lowest, you need to choose descending. And at the bottom now, it's showing country, isn't it? Please change it into sum of profit, right? Change it into sum of profit and then press OK. Then from here, you got your highest to lowest profit. Highest profit coming from India, second place UK, third place US, number 4 Malaysia, and the last one is Philippines. So that is how you can sort your data inside your pivot table, right? So I hope based on the basic pivot table and also the sorting area, it is clear to all of you on how to create the pivot table, because this would be the essence here on how you can create a dashboard, right? Okay, so I hope that's clear. Now, we've learned about the fundamentals of pivot table. Next, we are going to move into the dashboard, okay? So what I'll do is, I'm going to close this first. I'm going to share with you the dashboard file, right? So let me share the dashboard file to all of you. We are going to create our own dashboard now, a simple one by using Excel, okay? And using also pivot table. So you may open the dashboard file here. I'm going to open mine as well, and I'm going to share the screen shortly. All right, opening up my dashboard. And now I'm going to share my screen. Okay, all right. Okay, wonderful. So I hope you can access the dashboard file, the workbook. When you open the dashboard workbook, you can see there are two different worksheets. The first worksheet at the front side is a dashboard whereby we are going to put in our charts, graph, slicer, timeline, everything in here, okay? And of course, number two, you have your data, all right? Okay. So what I'll do over here is, okay, this is the plan, right? We are going to insert two pivot table. We are going to insert two pivot charts. We are going to insert two slicer, and we are going to insert one timeline. And of course, finally, we will integrate everything together to be a dashboard. So I would like to share this first so you know what is the expectation, right? You know how many pivot table you need to create, how many pivot chart, how many slicer, and how many timeline, okay? So let's start by creating two pivot table, okay? So I hope you still remember how to create your pivot table. Number one, put your cursor anywhere inside your data, right? So the data is from cell A1 to G701, right? So just put your cursor anywhere as long as it's within that range that I said earlier, A1, G701. Now, number two, as you can already remember, we need to go to Insert tab, Pivot Table. So your table orange is table 3. All right, now we are going to change it a little bit, right? Earlier during the 2, 3, and 4 quadrants pivot table, we use existing worksheet, isn't it? Now for dashboard exercises, I want us to use new worksheet, right? Because I want you to try both existing and also new worksheet so you can see how does it look like, okay? So over here, choose new worksheet, press OK. And now there's a new worksheet comes out, which is sheet number 1. Now for sheet number 1, I want you to rename, right? Rename the worksheet into profit by country. All right, we want to see profit by country. So as you can already know, you need to create a pivot table that shows profit by country. Therefore, please choose country and also profit, because profit by country, right? So choose profit, choose country. Very simple. Then your country will be under your rows quadrant. Your profit will be under your values quadrant. Okay, right. So once you get two of these, you can just close your pivot table. And this is how your pivot table looks like, right? It's similar to the first one that we did earlier. So here I'm going to format the numbers, comma, and also decrease decimal places. Okay, right. Now, once you got this particular pivot table, now we are going to learn something new, all right? We are going to create a pivot chart, okay? So some of you are wondering, Adila, what is the difference between the normal charts and graph that I created and also what is pivot chart? Generally, essentially, it's the same, all right? It's still showcasing your charts and graph, but the difference is if you use your normal charts and graph, you pull your data from a table or a range, right? You highlighted that particular range, you highlight a particular table, you create a charts and graph. But in your pivot chart, right, your source of data is your pivot table. So like it or not, you need to have a pivot table first. Only then you can create your pivot chart, right? So it's the same. The difference is the source of data. One is from table or range. Another one, you need to have a pivot table first, okay? So I hope that's clear. Now, to create a pivot chart, you need to put your cursor inside your pivot table because the name is pivot chart, right? So of course, you need to get from pivot table. So put your cursor anywhere inside your pivot table. All right. So once you put your cursor inside, suddenly right, up here on the right side, you can see, there's a new tab that appear, all right? The name is Pivot Table Analyze tab, okay? Or for older version, 2016, 2013, you may see Analyze tab, right? So it comes in two names, either Pivot Table Analyze or Analyze tab, right? So I hope everyone is good in that sense. And you can find your Analyze tab. Now, inside your Analyze tab, if you go to the right side, here you go, you can see pivot chart. All right, insert a pivot chart tied to the data in this pivot table. So this is exactly what we want. Click on pivot chart. Okay. Now, let's create an interesting chart. Okay. I'm going to choose the category pie. And I'm going to choose the second one here, 3D pie, right? It looks nicer, not your normal pie, the 2D. Let's choose a 3D pie, right? So let's choose 3D pie together and then press OK. So here you got your first ever pivot chart that represents the data inside your pivot table. Okay. Now you have your indicator over here. You have your legend, right? Let's say dark blue is India, lighter blue is Malaysia, and so on. But let's say you want to add data labels, because now you can only see the cut of the pie, right? You couldn't see the numbers. So if you want to see the numbers, you can. What you can do is you right click on the pie chart itself, right click. When you right click on any of the pie or any on the pie cut, any on the pie chart, right? You can click on add data labels. And that is how you add data labels into your chart. Okay. Right click, add data labels. So now each of your cut of pie already have the data label. So what I want you to do next is please cut and paste this pivot chart into your dashboard. Okay, so basically we want to move it into our dashboard. So what I recommend you to do is you click on your pivot chart here, okay, and then on your keyboard, okay, let's do a shortcut keyboard, okay, shortcut key for cut and also paste. So to cut, you can press on two keys, Control X. When you press on these two keys, Control and also the letter X, Excel will cut that particular pivot chart. Okay. Now let's go to your dashboard. So inside your dashboard, we want to paste that pivot chart. Press two keys, Control V. So there you go. Now inside your dashboard, you have one charts. Okay. Right. So that is good. So once you have cut and paste, let's go back to our data worksheet because we have another pivot table and pivot chart to create because we need to do two pivot table, two pivot chart. Right now, we only completed one, isn't it? Okay, so let's do another one and then we'll insert our slicer timeline and we are going to integrate everything together into a dashboard. Okay, now cursor anywhere inside your data. Go to your Insert tab, Pivot Table. So as usual, double check table or range. It is correct, table 3. Choose New Worksheet, sorry, and then press OK. Now, for the second one, I want to name it as Unit Sold by Month. I want to know for each of the month, how many jar of cookies are sold. Okay, unit sold by month. So as you can guess, as per the title, unit sold by month, I'm going to choose units sold. And of course, for date, we follow the same concept as earlier. If you have all 4, only keep your months. If you have 3, date, quarters, years, please keep your date. And if you only have date, just keep your date. Okay, so that will represent your months. Okay, so over here, I have January to December, and I have the sum of units sold. So what I'll do is I'm going to apply some number formatting on my numbers. Okay, I'm going to apply comma and also decrease decimal places. All right, so I'm going to zoom in a little bit more. Okay, now that looks good. Okay, so Any suggestion what type of charts will be suitable for me to showcase my unit sold by month? Anyone have any idea? Maybe you can share your thoughts in the chat box as well. What chart should I use to create, to showcase the unit sold by month, right? The keyword is month. How can I show that nicely? Which chart would be appropriate and suitable? All right. Thank you so much, Sian Kai, okay, for Lao Sian Kai. Yes, it should be a line graph, isn't it? So usually when we see months, when we want to, or when we have data that is related to dates, right? Months, sales, and so on, line graph would be more appropriate for us to showcase, right? So we can see the relationship by month. We can see the increase and decrease and so on, all right? So thank you so much for your suggestion. So over here, we are going to create a line pivot chart, okay? Right. So over here, similarly to earlier, please put your cursor anywhere inside your pivot table, right? And when you go up here, on top right, please find your pivot table analyze tab or simply analyze tab. And of course, inside that analyze tab on the right side, you can see a pivot chart. Okay. So as recommended, let's go to the category line and just choose this particular line graph, okay? Right. Now, press OK. Right. So we have a nice line graph here. So now can you please cut and paste it for me? Okay, cut and paste it inside your dashboard worksheet. So click on the chart, Control X to cut it. Go to your dashboard, Control V. So there you go. Right, so we have two different charts inside your dashboard, okay? So we have finished creating two pivot table and two pivot chart. Now we are going to insert two slicer, one timeline, and integrate everything together into a dashboard, okay? Right, now let's go back to our dashboard, okay? So we are going to insert slicer. Slicer works quite similar to a filter, okay? So what I'll do is, number one, I want you to click on your 3D pie chart here. Okay, click on your 3D pie chart. And up here, please choose Pivot Chart Analyze tab, or as I mentioned earlier, Analyze tab. Okay, now click on Analyze. So go all the way to the center, right? You can see Filter ribbon, and inside your filter ribbon, you can see Insert Slicer, and also insert timeline. So this is exactly what we're going to do later. We're going to insert slicer and we are going to insert timeline. So first, I want you to click on insert slicer. So you can choose how many slicer you want to insert. We are going to choose 2, country and also product. Okay. So for your slicer, choose 2, country and also product. And now I want you to press OK. So for those who've never seen slicer before, this is how slicer looks like. All right, yeah. So that looks good. That is your slicer. And of course, the last one, we want to insert a timeline, okay? So one thing you need to take note of is, if you want to create, if you want to insert a timeline, your data must have date data, all right? So if let's say your data, there's no dates, tak ada tarikh whatsoever, timeline won't be able to appear because timeline only works if we have dates data. Dates, I mean, you have the dates inside your particular data, all right? Only then you can insert a timeline. If you don't, okay, you won't be able to insert a timeline because timeline is for dates, okay? Right, now, click again on your 3D pie chart. Top right, you can see Pivot Chart Analyze tab, or what we call as Analyze tab. And now go all the way to the center, Filter ribbon, and here you can see Insert Timeline. So if you can look at the definition given by Microsoft is, insert timeline is use a timeline to filter dates interactively. So it is special for dates data, right? So click on Insert Timeline. as you can see, there's only one, isn't it? Date. Yeah, so only if you have date, you can insert timeline. So tick on date over here, press OK. And here is how your timeline looks like. Okay, we have this over here. All right. So now we have completed our task. Okay, we have created 2 pivot table, 2 pivot chart. All right, we have 2 slicer over here, and we have 1 timeline. Okay, so what I want you to do now is, let's take about a couple of minutes. Okay, you can try and arrange your dashboard nicely, right? You can make your charts bigger, you can make your slices smaller, and so on. So that's what I'm going to do here. Okay, I'm going to adjust it accordingly for my slicer as well. Wait, let me try again. Right, and then of course, I'm going to put my timeline over here. So now you should have 5 different items inside your dashboard. 2 pivot chart, 2 slicer, and 1 timeline, right? So now this looks good, okay? All right, now I want you to pay close attention, right? When I choose slicer, let's say now both of my 3D pie chart and my line graph, it's showing everything, right? For all countries, India, Malaysia, Philippines, UK, US, and of course for all products. Let's say when we are in a meeting in your company, right? Okay. Let's say your manager asks you, Adila, how is the performance in Malaysia? So what I'll do is I'm going to go to my country slicer. I'm going to press on Malaysia. So now my 3D pie chart only shows for Malaysia, amounting of profit 494,799. Okay. However, if you notice, if you look closely, right, my line graph doesn't move even an inch, right? Why? Because when we created the timeline, when we created the slicer, remember we click on the 3D pie chart. So that's why your line graph doesn't move at all to represent your new condition, which is you only want to see for Malaysia, right? Okay. So the question is, how do you integrate everything together? Meaning, if let's say you choose country, India and Malaysia, right? So all of your charts will only show for India and Malaysia as well. Let's say you only choose the product chocolate chip, only chocolate chip will come out. So that's the idea. How can we integrate everything together, and how can we make it interactive, right? When we click, automatically it changes accordingly as well, okay? Right, so the key idea is, first, let me clear the filter here first, all right, from the country slicer. So everything goes back to normal. Now, what you should do is, you need to do something on both of your slicer and also your timeline. So let me show you what you should do to integrate everything together, okay? Now, number 1, right click on your country slicer. Okay, I'm going to zoom in a little bit further if that's okay. Right click. If you see at the center here, you can find report connections. So report connection is the key for you to integrate your dashboard together, all right? So click on report connections. Now, do you see why only your 3D pie chart is moving? Because now it's only selecting 3D pie chart. So now what I want you to do is click on both pivot table 1 and pivot table 2. Click on both, press OK, right? But it doesn't stop there. Please do for the remaining slicer. So now I'm going to do for product, right click, report connections, tick on both of the pivot table, and then I want you to press OK. And of course, finally, please apply it on your timeline as well. So report connection must be applied on your slicer and timeline. So right click on your timeline, report connection, press both pivot table 1, pivot table 2. Press OK. So now let's give it a test, shall we? So I have integrated everything together. I have performed the report connection. Now let's try and click, all right, any of the slicer here, and let's see if it works, all right? So I'm choosing Malaysia. Now you can see both the 3D pie chart and the line graph moves accordingly for the country Malaysia, okay? Right. So that is for slicer. Let's say I choose country Malaysia, product only chocolate chip, right? So they will adjust accordingly as well, both the 3D pie chart and also the line graph, okay? So that is the purpose of slicer. It helps you to slice further according to which condition you want, right? The country that you would like to see, the product that you would like to see, and what about your timeline, okay? Now, if you look at your timeline here, if you look at your line graph, timeline is relating to dates, right? Now your graph, your line graph is showing for the whole year, January until December, okay? Now, if you go to your timeline, I'll show you an example. Let's say I'm only choosing December. You can see there is nothing at all on the line graph, right? Why? Because in the line graph, you need at least 2 points to connect, right? So if you only choose 1 month, definitely there's no data plotted there, okay? So once you click on December here, I'm going to expand it to the left to include October, November, and also December. And now you can see it has been reflected accordingly into my line graph as well. So this is what's special about your timeline. You can adjust according to the months that you want, the quarter that you want, and so on. So it's easier for you to showcase, right, into inside your dashboard as well. Because sometimes you don't want to see for the whole month, right? Maybe right now it's already October. Okay, so maybe you are finalizing quarter 3 because quarter 3 just ended last month, right? In the month of September. So if you want to showcase your performance in for quarter 3, so you can try this method, isn't it? So you can just highlight, let's say July until September. So this gives you the data for quarter 3. Okay, right. So with that, that is what I wanted to share with all of you. Okay, so actually to create a dashboard in Excel, it's very cost effective. It's quite simple, but most importantly, you need to have a strong basis in your pivot table. So that's why I started from the basic earlier, so that it will be easier for you to create your own dashboard later. And of course, the key to integrate the dashboard is your report connections. All right. Okay. So with that, that is the sharing that is the knowledge that I would like to share with all of you today. So I hope it will be very useful to all of you and help you in your work. So now I would like to return back the session to Nina, and I would like to open the floors for any question. All right. Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you, Sei. No worries. Most welcome. Most welcome, Esther. Right. I hope it helps all of you. Okay. Right. So if you do have any question, just do let me know. Most welcome, everyone. Thank you, Lord. Thank you, Tengku. Right. Anyone have any question, or is it quite clear? Okay. So I hope it's clear for everyone. That's the main aim. All right. Thank you so much, everybody. No worries. Most welcome. Okay. So if you do have any question, feel free to type it in. Okay. So if not, if you think it's quite lengthy, you can just unmute your mic and just shoot out the question. Okay. So I'm here to answer any questions that you have. All right. Thank you so much, everybody. No worries. Okay. Over to you, Nina.
All right, thank you, Miss Adila, for the excellent presentation. So if anyone doesn't have any question, right now I will explain regarding your certificates. We are pleased to inform you that your attendance has been recorded and that your course status will be marked as completed after this session. You will receive your e-certificate through the NTW portal upon successful completion of the TEE assessment. And the certificate can be generated from the applied course section of your individual profile. As for the video recording of the session, it will be available on our YouTube channel, Excel Academy Malaysia, by tomorrow. By next week. So now I will inform you about our upcoming training sessions. If you are interested in enrolling in one of these courses, please contact us. So as you can see on the screen here, we have Microsoft Excel basic level, Microsoft Excel intermediate and advanced level, Microsoft Excel data analytics and visualization, Microsoft Excel, Microsoft Power BI, data analysis and dashboard reporting. Introduction to AI tools, enhancing office productivity, ChatGPT and AI tools, content creation and marketing. Canva design bootcamp, CapCut for video marketing, digital marketing masterclass, digital marketing professional, digital marketing training in social media marketing and SEO and SEM. All right, so that's all for today. Thank you all for your participations and have a great day. Once again, thank you, Miss Adila.
All right. Thank you, Nina, Excel Academy, and thank you so much for everyone for attending. All right. So have a good weekend. Thank you, everyone.